minutes have been approved. New business, first order of business. Mr. Holmes, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute facilities use license agreement with Tuscaloosa Housing Authority for the PAL Gym.
Yes, sir. What, as has been discussed in projects over the last couple of weeks, we are in the process of renovating and fixing up the PAL gym and really bringing it up to city standards. That gym is actually owned by the Tuscaloosa Housing Authority, and so this license agreement will allow us to, for all intents and purposes, take control to make those improvements, do the maintenance that's needed, and keep it up to our standards.
Any questions for Scott? Scott, I would like to say I'd like to thank you and the mayor and the team for this. This is in my district. You know, it does get a high usage of kids in the community, so I appreciate they do deserve the best. So I appreciate your work on it.
Yes, sir. And the Housing Authority has already executed their copy of the agreement. So after council approves this tonight, we'll have the mayor execute it tomorrow.
All right, sounds good.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Second item on the agenda, Mr. Powell, Mr. Bobbitt, authorizing the mayor to negotiate an assignment and amendment to the TCL FBO LLC fixed base operator agreement and aviation hangar and ground lease to Ascension FBO network at the Tuscaloosa National Airport.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We received notice of a proposal to entertain the sale of Bama-Dixie to Hawthorne through an assignment. This request is just to enter into negotiations to start that process to advocate what's good for the city of Tuscaloosa and then provide a proposal back to the council for review.
All right, thank you for others' work on this. Any questions from the committee?
You don't say anything.
That's right. You got anything to say?
The
Yes, sir.
Podium.
That's the place you want to be, behind the podium. I think most of you know me, but I'm Stan Pate, and I currently own the Bama-Dixie FBO and operate the Bama-Dixie FBO at the airport. I think most people know I have a tremendous passion for flying. I've been watching from the first time I saw an airplane. Not only have a passion for flying, I have a passion for our airport. I've been hanging around out there in various reasons for 40 years. Still don't have my license. I still hang around a little bit. But I bought Bama-Dixie and we went forward with big effort to eliminate the deferred maintenance. We've hired a good team. We put up a good operation, but at the end of the day, airport has a finite amount of business on the airport. Have two good competitors, it's very difficult for either one to make any money. And if you don't make money, you don't reinvest in the airport. So Hawthorne has talked to me about, they are the dominant FBO, about selling to them. I've agreed to sell to them with a few conditions. One, I want to remain involved in aviation. One of the passions I've had, Mayor and others in this room have heard me talk about over time, is freight. And there's a tremendous opportunity for air freight in Tuscaloosa. Part of our agreement, and I can speak, I think, to this part, is that I will remain able to do air freight at the airport. And my goal is to ultimately get a customs agent there, demonstrate enough freight to build an independent facility. Also, I'm going to keep aircraft rental there. I have 10 airplanes as we speak, another additional jet coming to the airport. One of the things I'm most proud of is our student training. We've been able to grow that business. We're now about to graduate 3 young pilots up to either having their commercial certificate or able to step into, in fact, one of them's second in command in my jet now. So that's an area that I want to continue to focus on. The other thing is recruiting other businesses to the airport. And I've been working on that for a while, and I look forward to continuing to work with Jeff Powell and the city toward bringing some of these type of projects to reality at the airport. And I love it, but at the same time, I think my time is probably better spent on focusing on the real estate opportunities that are here in Tuscaloosa. So if anybody would like to ask a question, I'd love to.
Thank you, Ms. Pate. Any questions from the committee?
I don't have a question, but I just want to tell you that when I first visited you after you had Bama Dixie, I didn't think I was at the Tuscaloosa airport. The changes you made were just really incredible. It was much more than I thought, and especially for visitor pilots and things such as that the welcoming things that you had for the pilots that came in to carry folks and visited. So,
One of these we've done,
Huge difference.
thank you, Councilman. So we've engaged the community. We had a day out for the scouts, for Girl and Boy Scouts. We had like somewhere between 50 and 60 attend and get their merit badges. Our pancake breakfast is encouraging not only people on the field, but citizens who are not on the field to attend. Have been overwhelmingly successful. And later on this month, we're going to have skydiving at the airport. It's my understanding that the mayor has left town, or is leaving town for those few days. You can read into that what you want to read into it, but I heard he was challenged to jump. But I do want to.
I'm going to do it, Mr. Pate. I promise you. That is one of my bucket lists, is to jump on the airplane, preferably with air.
No pun intended. We'll have an encore to this.
Me and you gonna land together at the middle of Encore.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
The airport just has so much attraction to the public. We've been working with a group to have a day out there where you have vintage airplanes. The airport has a lot of untapped potential, and I see things changing. I see them changing for a good way. There's momentum. Just need to keep it moving forward.
We appreciate it, Ms. Pate. Any other questions from the committee? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll make motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ms. Pate.
Thank
Item number 3, general properties discussion. Mr. Moore.
This is just a follow-up. I decided to do some packets so y'all could take through this
Oh,
with y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What we discussed last time, or is it just?
It's gonna be similar. Some updated notes. There have been some minor things. I don't think we walked through every particular piece of property, but I do believe, there have been a couple of updates that's related to the old fire station 11. Vicki, this person can bring this for your records. I didn't know if y'all had time. We sent a PDF out for
Yeah,
y'all to look
appreciate
at.
that.
If there was anything in particular y'all had questions on or wanted to follow up, we've got about 4 dozen parcels in here that range various districts from residential to commercial opportunities to mixed use opportunities. There's a handful I know for myself in North Tuscaloosa that present some opportunities for, I think, potential disposal that may provide some commercial value as we're working through SSUT and RSA conversion. Mayor Maddox has encouraged us to go through the full portfolio and look at items that aren't necessarily critical for operations that maybe we could dispose of. Get back on the tax rolls, provide private sector opportunity, which I think would be a fantastic idea, and there are a handful in here.
And if you recall, for those of you that were on a recent ratings trip with Moody's and S&P, Moody's and Fitch, one of the portions of our plan to make certain we convert successfully to RSA on July 1st, 2026 was $4 million of budget cuts a year, each year. Now, certainly, if you can dispose of property for 3 years, so it's a total of 12 million, if you can sell property that the city's no longer using, then that certainly could be used in that $4 million number. And as Mr. Moore said, we've got a lot of great property around the city that we need to get on the tax rolls. As SSUT takes 15 million out of our budget this year, we're still a long way from solving that. It's the more property we can sell, although it's one-time funding, it certainly can help us in the interim in getting them on the tax rolls where they're constantly making sales tax, property tax, is in our interest. We plan on, over the next year, coming to you with proposals. What I would strongly encourage you to do is look at the properties, all of them across the city, especially the ones in your district, and let's talk. I want to hear what you think, pros, cons. We get a lot of developers that come to us and say, is the city willing to do this, city willing to do that? This is the inventory. I want you to take a strong look at it and let's see what we can do to get it back on tax rolls. We have 500, this doesn't count right-of-way easements, we have 500 properties.
There's no
across the
critical
city.
infrastructure, as Mayor Maddox alluded to, included in this. Nothing necessarily airport-centric that would be more EDA or Mr. Powell's purview. If it's CDBG flagged, right, those dollars, if something was transacted or sold, would have to go back into what I think of Mr. Howell's bucket, so do keep that in mind. There are some deed restrictions on the property that does not make it impossible, may provide a slight challenge on the front end. I know Mr. Thompson, if you go to what's flagged as number 2, the former 3200 Greensboro Avenue for TFR administration. He's doing a tour tomorrow for somebody for the last 2 years that's wanted to take a peek at the property. I'm not saying we're RFPing it, not saying we're doing anything, but this discussion came up. They want to take a look. If there's a level of interest, that's something we can RFP back out. They did have an appraisal, I think it was 3.3 million, Tom? So recent appraisal of 3.3 million for that particular piece of property.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair or Mr. Moore. Did we cancel the RFP process for the Barnes Branch of YMCA?
No,
Was
and
that rescinded?
That's when I don't allow bank
yeah,
loans.
and Mr. Eatman and I have been working with Mr. Howell on this one. Maud Watley has withdrawn.
Okay.
They won the RFP, we awarded the property because of the uncertainty of federal funding, they withdrawn. And certainly we hate it, Pastor Gabe, hates it as well. Mr. Eatman and I actually talked about that today in our bi-weekly meeting. He's gonna be working with Mr. Howell, and I don't wanna put words in your mouth, Mr. Eatman.
No.
In engaging the community to determine what's the next step.
Okay.
Is that right?
That is. I'll be meeting with Mr. Howell tomorrow, Raymond. You're welcome to join us at 10:30 tomorrow if you
Okay.
want to start discussions about next steps with that property and what that looks like. So I scheduled a meeting with him for 10:30 tomorrow if you
I
want to
think
join.
some properties to put on your radar. Fire Station 11 appears to be near contract pending for signature. The former location for 11, let me know. Number 2 on that TFR Advent 3200 is a great corner. That would be one to look at, just more in the immediate. I do think we have an interesting discussion that we could have regarding the current facilities maintenance warehouse over out near the airport area, industrial park area. Mr. Thompson and I have looked at some different ideas for square footage where I think we could consolidate some items that may not necessarily be needed currently in the portfolio. It's probably being underutilized.
Brendan, I
Yes,
was gonna say, some of this property, I think, probably needs to be sold. That's just my,
Sure.
advanced look at that. But I do think that we've talked about, like with Phelps Center, there's a lot of different things in my district that I think instead of selling property for a one-time amount of money, maybe there's a way we can have some public-private partnerships. Maybe the city can benefit a stream of revenue that would help us instead of just saying, we're gonna sell this for blank. Because I know long-term plan is reimagining the Phelps Center, but I think you've got a very good piece of property right there that could benefit the citizens of Tuscaloosa maybe open up some things like
I think
restaurants
that one
or
is
some
more
other
of a
stuff?
natural P3. There's some land water conservation restrictions to the west of the property, but there's, gosh, I want to say it's 17 approximately acres that can have some things done where you, right now, just to be frank, I mean, the building is obscuring and one of the best views.
Sure.
Really what I would think of as the gateway to the lakes. You have high commercial interest in that area,
It
but we
could
do
be
not
some
have a
type of
lot of
venue.
property.
Maybe a venue or something.
So, I would love to get us out of the O&M business and get things back on the tax rolls and engage the private sector. District 3 is growing, and I think there's some opportunities both for public and also some private sector development in that space.
And the
Maybe just kind of
venues
thinking
is-
outside the box a little bit, we will, but that's.
Otherwise, we'll just be continuous, and I just don't mean this in a negative way, but we'll continue to sink dollars O&M wise into that facility via para for maybe not maximizing full usage.
Agree.
And I think we're gonna have to pivot and rethink about how we do that. There are a couple of other good pieces of property in the area, I would call your attention to. They need to be sensitive near the lake, but that doesn't mean we can't provide some opportunities out there to engage with parties that might be interested. I'd say number 10 is one to flag on your notes. We've had inquiries about the old jail property that does historic designation on that, item 12, but that would be something for your consideration. I do want to flag to your attention that on number 14, the Preservation Society has a lease on the Battle Freedman property until September 30th, 2025 with an additional 5-year option. That property must only be used for public or municipal purpose and may not be conveyed or sold. Maybe an opportunity there, something to consider. The other one I think we could point out really briefly is to consider, I believe it's number 7, number 6, the Maccabee Center we will need to think about. There's going to be some discussions once I think you're above 90% design for the adult
Not
property.
one day, John.
Yes, sir.
I'm just frustrated with all of that. I mean,
Yes, sir.
not with you.
Oh, that's okay.
You understand. And, I'm just not sure what we can do with it. I would sure love to hear some good ideas.
Well, I think there's, I'll engage with Focus, and I think there's a discussion that needs to be had there. And then also, too, there is a deed restriction that it's going to need to be more public in
Right.
nature. So your likely user is going to be us, or I believe one user has passed on the opportunity, and then maybe a nonprofit, or maybe we can consolidate some services there and decommission some more valuable piece of properties to go into.
That would be an idea. It's still gonna cost a lot of money to do, we're gonna have to do a lot with that building if it's gonna be used.
And that's, if we got someone else there, you would have just extreme costs both for the renovation and also ongoing O&M. So
I think
that's something we'll
the
need to
thing we're
consider.
looking at too is, what's our deficit at Phelps? It's over 400,000 a year, and you have very few members. That doesn't mean it doesn't get used, but our operating deficit that we fund para is roughly 400. Maccabee, 450,000. Again, relatively few members. That doesn't mean they're not valuable. I'm not trying to say that. But when you look at the business case, you go, okay, we're going to solve that Maccabee by what you're doing, Mr. Fell, by expanding Belk and consolidating the two. So that's going to help us. So we're looking at these business cases as well, because one thing we don't want to do is lease, let's say, the Maccabee Center to Brendan Moore's charity.
Yeah.
And then now we're leased a facility, and now we're giving Brendan Moore charities $450,000 a year. We're still in the same position we were.
Right.
So as we have to come to the reality of reducing $15 million a year out of our budget to meet SSUT, these are the type of decisions we're looking at internally to maximize our resources so we can continue to invest in public safety and those other things. Go ahead, Brendan, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
And I think, I like to sometimes think of it, some of them are very straightforward, some are more puzzle-centric, depending on the funding blend within them. Feel free to reach out to myself, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Bobbitt. There are some things that Mr. Thompson and I have discussed that we potentially could consolidate city-wise to free up another property that I would argue maybe a little bit better. For example, get that one on the tax rolls that's not represented and consolidate something in that we may need to retain or may have a little bit more entanglements associated with the property, makes it a little more challenging. So I think there's a lot of options if you look at it a little bit more puzzle-centric or chess-centric with the pieces. All right. Is there any that y'all want to maybe take a deeper dive on, or maybe look at RFPing or anything along those lines? Because it will take a moment to kind of get the mechanics going on some of these if you want us to take a deeper
The
dive.
Alberta Parkway, with they said, like those lots that were not.
Those should be
developed-
Those should be in process, Mr. Tyner.
Okay.
They're flagged on that, but they should be, that's, would come off the list for lack of a better way to put it.
Okay.
Kind of like Fire Station 11.
Sure,
Former Fire Station.
But sometime in the near future, we ought to talk about those properties that I mentioned in the district. I mean, I want to kind of study it a little bit more. Maybe we can do that.
We've got extensive
Sometime this summer.
research on most of these, and we've done, I think, a fairly good job of vetting it at least to the 90% level. You can always find a surprise here or there as you go through it a little bit deeper.
But
I
with the
feel
restrictions, knowing what those restrictions are and what.
Oh, the Phelps
parameters
one
are part of
is,
that.
we vetted that one for, I would say 18 months. I feel very confident,
Okay.
in the lay of the land on that particular one. Now, obviously, I'm gonna be very clear, we would do something if any modifications or changes to obviously make sure the Phelps name is enhanced and maintained on the property.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Any other questions for Mr. Moore?
That's good.
I don't.
If not, we
Use
appreciate
this
it.
and feel free, email us directly. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. I think there's at least probably 5 to 7 really premium properties that could help with the budget side and get our police and firefighters to RSA much faster, right? Thank
I
y'all.
encourage the committee members and council to kind of look over the properties and start some discussions to get it done. So great conversation. Item number 4, discussing naming of Mike Wright's Ferry Road Bridge. Councilor Crowe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we have gone through this process of hopefully McWright's Ferry we are on schedule to be finished at the end of September, probably 1st of October. One of the things that constituents and people have asked me is, what are we going to do with the bridge, naming the bridge, what makes sense? And, one thing that I've done a little bit of homework myself into thinking about who would be a good person and a good family to honor with maybe naming that bridge in that area. And the Maccabees are the family that have come to mind for me, Ruth and Leroy Maccabee. For over 50 years, Mr. Chairman, they've had an internationally known construction company that has been community-minded, has made huge investments in our community. Just a small list: the Boy Scouts, United Way, Para, Heart Association, Boys and Girls Club, Public Library. They've done that for the betterment of our community, and I would say the Maccabee family has been given way too many accolades to even mention today. As I was reading Mr. Maccabee's bio, it really struck me about the things that they've really done in our community. But he and Mrs. Maccabee have been an integral part of the success of our community, and I would like to ask the committee, Mr. Chairman, if we could discuss how a process would be put in place to name the new McWright's Ferry Road Bridge for Ruth and Leroy Maccabee. So I'd like to kind of know what would be the process to do that. So Ashley, I know you're here and Scott's here, maybe to talk about how that would work, Scott, but I'd like to propose that to the committee that we do that.
Well, I can tell you how it would work is on this issue, we're kind of in the wild, wild west. So section 21-2, one of my first projects when I was hired at the city in 2014, actually talks about how to designate honorary street names. I've reviewed it as well as Ms. Kreitz, and that doesn't really contemplate something like a bridge. And so really a lot of the issues that we send an honorary street name to don't arise with the bridge. There's not a public safety implication. There aren't citizens that live on the bridge that have an address to change and all those sorts of things. And so I think where we are is if it is the will of the council to move forward in that direction, to simply let us know, and my office can proceed
By resolution.
with drafting
Yeah.
a resolution
I would like to
designating.
ask the committee consider that. The other thing I was gonna say is, since this road is being funded by the citizens of the county, I've spoken with Commissioner Acker, my counterpart in our area, to get a resolution from the county commission. And then I would also like to ask the city council of Northport to do the same thing, and I have not done that yet, but I'm planning on asking President Bobo about that in the near future. But hoping to get all of this done before the bridge and the road would open, Mr. Chairman, in September or by October 1st. But
Sounds
I'd
good.
like to ask the committee to approve that, to move to council.
One of the things that's just different about this and streets is that it doesn't affect
Nobody's mail's
Right,
gonna be.
right,
different.
nobody's mail's gonna be changed and all that. I can't remember, the one bridge we named in Alberta was after the longtime barber there, Clee Green.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember how that was,
I'm-
that
I'm
was
not sure.
done.
That's on Kicker Road, right?
Yes,
So Scott, what would be our
Yes,
next
yes.
steps if we would like,
If Ms. Johnson help me out, parliamentarian, do you want?
I need to make a motion
I
to,
just need a motion in a second.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to name the new McWright's Ferry Road Bridge after Ruth and Leroy
I'll
McAbee.
second it.
got a first, got a second?
Got a motion in a second.
Got a first and a second?
Let's third that.
Got a motion and a second, I'm sorry.
Who's on first?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes.
And Mr. Crowe, I'll work with you to make sure this is more than just a generic resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Howard, you got something?
Old business or new business?
Okay, no, we're good.
Check
We good?
All minds are clear.
All right.
You'll check your email.
All right, if there's nothing else to bring before the committee, I accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion
Second.
to adjourn.
All in favor?